Hello all, welcome to one more video. Today we are here to discuss on a topic from the subject Indian Constitution. Our topic of discussion is center-state relationship, where we will be concentrating more on the legislative relations. So let's move forward. We know that our country, India, has a federal structure, which means several states are united together in common matters and also are independent in other matters. In the slide, you will find 3 points where it summarizes the meaning of Indian federalism. It clearly states that there is a division of power between the center and state, and each government, that is the central government as well as the state government, have their distinct sovereign powers, and countries like USA, Australia, Canada, Brazil, Germany, India, and Mexico have a federal structure of government. Also, new additions have been made, like countries like Sri Lanka, South Africa, Nigeria, they also follow the federal structure. Now, talking about the center and state relationship, as I told you all that it has a federal structure, so it means there will be dual government, that is the center and the state government. So there is a relation between the center and state on the basis of which the whole country is governed. So there are three categories to understand the center state relationship. As you all can see, firstly, the legislative relations. It means that it is the process of making and passing of laws, and how much power does the center have and how much power does the state have in legislature. Next is the administrative relation, which means where the question arises that does the center have the power or right to interfere in the administration of the state. So it's all about the administration between the center and the state. And the most important is the financial relation, where we'll learn about revenues and commissions. But here in this particular video, we'll be concentrating more on the first aspect of the center state relation, that is the legislative relation. Now, the Constitution in its part 11, Article 245 to 255, lays down the legislative relation between the center and state. So here we are going to cover four aspects. Firstly, territorial extent of center and state relation, which means to what extent center can make laws and to what extent state can make laws. Then we have the distribution of legislative subjects. That means what are the subjects and how it has been distributed between the center and state under the Government of India Act 1935. Then how much interference of the parliament is there in the state legislation. We'll learn about that. And finally, is the center capable of interfering in state legislation? So we are going to learn about that too. Now, I have been repeatedly using the term legislature or legislation. So here legislature in the center means the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, whereas the legislature in the state is the Vidhan Sabha. Now we'll be taking up each and every aspect and learn in details what is all in it. So let's move forward and learn about the first aspect, that is the territorial extent of central and state legislation. Now, talking about the center, you all must know that the parliament has the full power to change any part of India. And this power of changing or legislating has been vested only with the parliament. We all know that India has 28 states and 8 union territories. States like Uttarakhand and Chhattisgarh have been extracted from UP and Madhya Pradesh, MP, respectively. So, this change has been brought up by the Parliament. So, we see that the Parliament here is interfering the boundaries of the states of India and making the changes and laws. But the state legislature, however, has its extent only within the state. For example, the Vidhan Sabha of UP can make and implement laws only within its territorial extension. If it thinks of changing, anything inside Bihar, it cannot. So that sums up the first 2 points. Now the third point, that is the extraterritorial legislature. That means the parliament can control and regulate the property of a citizen located in any part of the world or any part of India and outside India. So that is the third point. Now, exceptions. Now let's talk about exceptions. So there are few exceptions, that is exceptions firstly for the 4 union territories, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Lakshadweep, Dadra and Nagar Haveli, and the Daman and Diu. So all these 4 union territories comes under the control and jurisdiction of the president, and so no parliamentary laws are applicable here. Now, following this, there are some scheduled areas. So scheduled areas means there are few areas which are under the control of the governor, and here also the governor directs, and so no parliamentary laws are valid here. So the governor is more empowered here. Next, following this, there are few districts in Assam and Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. They are autonomous. So that again means no parliamentary laws are applicable here also. So we see these are the exceptions, few exceptions for few areas. We need to remember this. Now, let's talk about the distribution of legislative subjects. Now, when I say subjects, what does that mean? Suppose there is a house. This particular example is going to explain it to you more clearly. So, there is a house, and in that house, the father is the head there. So, suppose the father is the center, and you also are there, so you are the state. So, as a father, it is the father's duty to earn money and run the family. And while he is doing his work, you are not interfering in it. Similarly, it is your duty to do your studies, and father won't interfere in it. But if you are doing anything wrong or making any mistake, your father will interfere. At times, he may also scold, and so your father has the full power. So this actually explains simply the center-state relation. Center has the power to look into external as well as internal matters, and state has the power to look into matters concerning only the state. And so, this division of powers between the state and the center has been listed down somewhere. So, accordingly, there are 3 lists which have been prepared. As you all can see, it has been written in red. So it is the center list, all the union list, second is the state list, and the third is the concurrent list. So discussing the first one, that is the union list, or the also termed as center list. So there are around 100 subjects in this list. Parliament can make laws on these 100 subjects. For example, the defense. So the defense is looked after by the army, the defense of the country. And who controls the army? It is the center. It is the center that controls the army. So we see that defense is under the union list. Similarly, foreign affairs, that is the external affairs, will also be regulated and monitored by the center. Other affairs like banking, currency, atomic energy, insurance, communication, and so on, all these comes under the union list and will be looked upon by the center. Now, the state list. What all comes under the state? Presently, there are 61 subjects. Originally, there were 66 subjects. Among them, law and order and police. So, this is a state subject. Police can never be controlled by the center. So, it is a big power that has been given to the state. Other than this, public order, public health and sanitation, agriculture, prisons, local government, fisheries, markets, theatres, gambling, and so on, all these comes under the state list. Next, let's talk about the concurrent list. So, concurrent list is actually where the parliament and state together act for something. They together with an unified agreement make laws and legislate. There are around 52 subjects in the concurrent list. For example, the criminal law and procedure, the civil procedure, marriage and divorce, population control, family planning, electricity, labor welfare, economic and social planning, drugs, newspapers, books, and printing press. So, all this comes under the concurrent list. And this is how the legislative subjects have been distributed among the center and the state. Now remember the 42nd Amendment. This is also known as the mini constitution. Actually, a lot of changes took place in the 42nd Amendment. 5 subjects were removed from the state list. If you see the third point here, the second point here, you will see that the state list originally had 66 subjects, but now it has 61 subjects. So that means 5 subjects were removed from the state list and they were added to the concurrent list. As you all can see, there are 52 subjects, originally 47 subjects. So 47 and 5 subjects were added, that makes 52 subjects. So those subjects that have been removed from the state list and added to the concurrent list are education, forest, weights and measures, protection of wild animals and birds, administration of justice, constitution and organization of all courts except the Supreme and High Courts. Now, apart from all this, there are few subjects which are known as residuary subject, that is the matters which are not there in any of the lists, that is the state list, the union list and the concurrent list. So all those residuary subjects have been vested upon by the parliament, and this residuary power of legislation includes the power to levy residuary taxes. And the third point, it highlights that in US only the powers of the federal government are enumerated in the constitution and residuary powers are left to the states. So it is given to the states. So the Australian constitution follows the American pattern of single enumeration of powers. In Canada also, on the other hand, there is double enumeration, that is the federal and provincial. Now let's learn about the third aspect, that is the parliamentary legislation in the state field. Now, this actually answers the question, can the parliament interfere in the state field or not? Suppose the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution for a state saying that it is for the national interest that the state needs to go through a particular change. So here the Rajya Sabha or the center has the power to make laws in the state if necessary. But this resolution that has been passed by the Rajya Sabha can be passed only for a year. So that is the case. So if Rajya Sabha declares that it is necessary in the national interest that Parliament should make law for a state, then Parliament automatically is authorized to make laws in that matter. And for making laws in that matter, of course, a resolution must be passed and supported by 2/3 of the members present and voting, and most importantly, it is passed only for a year, remains in force only for a year. Now, in case of national emergency, again the power comes to the Parliament. The Parliament in such a situation legislates the state list. But such laws that are made during this national emergency are valid just for 6 months. So that is the case. Next, we are going to talk about parliamentary legislation in state field. Now, laws can be made regarding international agreements. So here you will find few examples of the act which have been made regarding the international agreements, that is the United Nations Privileges and Immunities Act 1947, Geneva Convention Act 1960, Anti-Hijacking Act 1982, and legislations relating to environment and TRIPS. So here also we see that the Parliament has been given powers in the state field. Now the second point, during President's rule, the Parliament here comes in power. Whenever there is an emergency in any of the state, an emergency has been declared, the Parliament can make and implement its laws there. So this laws continues to be operative even after the President's rule, and they can be changed or repealed and enacted by the state legislature. So that was it. Next, that is the fourth aspect and the last aspect. That is the first point, which says that the governor can pass bills. So if a bill has been passed by the Vidhan Sabha, it goes automatically to the governor. The governor may just send it to the president for consideration. So we see that ultimately the ultimate power is with the center. Next, suppose an important law needs to be made by the state. So automatically it will pass the bill to the governor. So the governor's signature is important here, but the governor may not be able to decide, and he or she may send it to the president for a sanction. So here also we see that the power is with the center. So there is a control of the center over the state legislation. Lastly, there are few matters which requires the president's sanctions. A state cannot pass any bill as per its wish. So the state legislature, that is the Vidhan Sabha, it is controlled by the state. That was all about the center-state legislative relation. Hope it was clear to you all. Thank you.